The Michigan Wolverines, 7.5, minus 135 to the over, plus 115 to the under. Changeover at defensive coordinator. Don Brown is out. Year 2 of the Josh Gaddis offense. We've got Cade McNamara, JJ McCarthy. Are you going to get the guy who took over as the starter at the end of the season, or is this true freshman who, remember, Michigan didn't have a spring game, but they had a social media presence of whatever their final scrimmage or action was. And when you got to see that off-platform throw, everyone loves the off-platform throw. So JJ McCarthy hype is very much alive and well. Non-con, Western Michigan, Washington, Northern Illinois, just like Ohio State and Penn State, all three are going to be at home. Then the West draw at Wisconsin, at Nebraska, Northwestern at home. I mentioned the home road splits are very, very important to me when I'm looking at Michigan. I think the fact that the Indiana game and the Washington game being in Ann Arbor are what get me to over 7.5. I think if either one of those games were at the other location, I would chalk them up as losses and they would have me going the other way. And as I get us started with an over here for the Michigan Wolverines, my third straight over. I acknowledge that at Michigan State is a very, very, very dangerous game. But I mean, I don't think that Mel Tucker's going to get 2 in a row, right? I mean, there's got to be something within that rivalry where that Michigan team is not going to let a Michigan State team that is not as good as Michigan beat them for the second straight season. But very, very scary, very dangerous. I will be going over the 7.5.
I think right off the bat, based on the Michigan that we've seen the last few years and the Michigan that we know, so what we can expect reasonably, there's 3 losses already. You're losing at Wisconsin, you're losing at Penn State, and you're losing that Ohio State game. Then there's the Washington game, which I do have Michigan winning. Like I bet it a couple months ago. I got Michigan plus 2.5. I think it's minus 1.5 most places now. I think they're going to win that game because I do have questions about Washington myself. But you look around, like at Nebraska, that's not a guaranteed win for Michigan. I know that Nebraska's down, but road trips in the Big Ten, especially when you're going out west from the East, are difficult. Northwestern's a difficult game. At Michigan State, that's a rivalry. That's a difficult game. Indiana is going to be a much more difficult game than it's ever supposed to be. And Indiana has always been a tough test for Michigan in recent history. At Maryland is a tough test. My pick is over. I've got them going 8-4. But my level of confidence in it is not great. I don't think 7-5 is completely out of the realm of possibility here. Although I do, somewhere in the back of my mind, just have a really difficult time imagining a 7-5 Michigan team that's not coached by like Brady Hoke.
So I kind of think, Tom, like for you and everybody else, do red flags kind of go off in your mind when you see 7.5 for a 12-game season?
I mean, what it's weird to me, we'll get to them, I'm sure, next. It's like, think about the fact that we're at a point where Indiana and Michigan have the same win total.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. With that said, I am going to go under here, mainly because I get plus money to go under. It's minus $1.35 to the over, so I get plus 115 on the under. I think this is kind of coin flippy. I think a 7-5 happens a lot. I think 8-4 happens a whole lot, but I also could see like 6-6. I could see 10-2. I think there's a big range here. I don't really want to be paying extra juice for a team that I don't have a whole lot of confidence in either way. People who, like obviously people on this very show, right? In addition to other people I follow are on both sides of this. So just go ahead and get me the under. I do have some concerns about the new defense they're trying to install. Now, the last time that Harbaugh went out and got a defensive coordinator on the recommendation of somebody in the NFL, it was Don Brown on the recommendation of Bill Belichick. That worked out pretty well for quite a while until it didn't. Now, the new guy comes in on the recommendation from his brother, who coaches the Baltimore Ravens, obviously, John Harbaugh. But I don't know, man. Like from talking to Sam Webb of the Michigan Insider, who does a tremendous job, and if you guys are Michigan fans, you're absolutely missing out. If you're not over there. He said that like losing Jay Toya, the defensive lineman who transferred there real quickly and then ended up transferring back to UCLA when he didn't think he could go to UCLA. He told me they thought there was a pretty good chance that he would start at Michigan and that was a big blow. And there's some teams on this schedule that can really run the football. And you're not getting Jay Toy for the pass rush, right? You're getting him because he's he's a fire hydrant. Yeah. Now they did get Whitley from Oregon State, who is not bad, but I don't know that he's necessarily the exact same impact. I mean, Washington runs the ball. I think Penn State will look to run the ball a lot more. Their backs are healthy. We know Ohio State can run it. Wisconsin, pretty good running team. But I could get burned on this. Who knows?
Yeah, I think you hit the head on the nail there. This is a team with a wide range of outcomes.
I'm going to take the over. I think this is one where a lot of people are down on Michigan because of what happened last season. And it was the team quit on them. The team threw in the towel. But of all the programs that I think would be more susceptible to quitting, I look at Michigan as a program who prides themselves on competing with, for Big Ten division titles and being right there with Ohio State. And I know it hasn't been there. But I feel like once that season went a little sideways, they just threw in the towel. Then they started, Don Brown, he's on the, he might be out. Then it's even easier to throw in the towel. I think the infusion of life is something that Michigan has needed. A younger staff, more current with today's player, able to relate. There's also something to be said about Jim Harbaugh, which is not very easy, and it's always been his downfall, is what do we hear? He goes places 4 to 5 years, and then people get worn out. People get worn out of it. I think even there's some coaches on that staff got worn out from being around Harbaugh. Now you get a new staff, a lot of new staff members. They're fresher. They're buying in. I think that enthusiasm could buy in from the team as well. So I think Michigan's a team. This was one of my better, more confident plays, I felt, was taking the over with Michigan. I think Joe Milton was a problem at quarterback last year, was not very good, and that was an issue. I like what I saw out of McNamara. If that doesn't work, he's got to develop. Sooner or later, it's like looking up at the roulette table and you've seen so many black. Let me take red. Like eventually Harbaugh's got to be able to develop a quarterback, right? He's got to be able to hit on one of these. So maybe it's a little bit kind of wishful thinking, but I look at the schedule too and I see, man, I feel pretty confident about 8-4, which was the norm. Like that was the low bar before this season. So I don't know. I'm taking the over with the Wolverines.
I will say, I hope you're right, because I just, as the Big Ten guy here on the show, like the perception of this conference nationally, Michigan has such an impact on the way this conference is seen, right or wrong, accurate or not. Like if Wisconsin, Northwestern, Michigan State, and Penn State are all really good, and obviously Ohio State's Ohio State, and Michigan's like 7-5, people think the Big Ten sucks, even if those teams are better than most other teams. So when Michigan's good, those other teams can be kind of having down years, but if Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State are all good in the same year, everybody thinks the Big Ten's good.